Good evening, good night, and welcome to the Dark of Bethany. I am Nobody, your storyteller, your narrator, and your number one fan. We hope that you all have the opportunity of enjoying this, without a shadow of a doubt, is the Dark of Bethany Season 1 finale, entitled Remainders Spent, Vine and Fig Tree and Hope. Thank you, and thank you for being here, for tuning in, and for hopefully enjoying tonight's episode as much as we. And now we await the other players to arrive. Welcome. How we doing, folks?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
Excellent. That's always good to hear.
Do be the vibin'.
Excellent. Shall we mosey along to begin play?
So then, are you ready to be the one that saves us all, dear India? Because from what I can tell, context clues wise, Joji is burning his wick very, very fast, and once that hits rock bottom, he is swan diving into the mirror.
What you do in your private time is your own.
Look, I wish it wasn't so, but, I didn't get the overall tone that we were just in a trap until it was too late.
We love a good trap.
Yes. As Fred once put it, I love traps.
Alright, well, we are several minutes before hard start, and we have all gathered. Everyone's here. So as always, and most ardently, thank you all. And as always, what questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or considerations might we have in regards to where we were?
So, just to clarify for Joji's situation, will I need to continuously resist this, or is it one of those inevitability type deals?
You will need to continue to resist it, partially due to your blood, partially due to just escaping. It is very much akin to having had that first hit of addiction and know that you are presented with every opportunity to indulge in that addiction afterwards.
Yeah. Seeing his sire in the mirror for Joji is kind of like being the recovering alcoholic at a party where everybody's drinking.
Yes.
Alright, well, I've got a firm grasp on my current situation. Now, I demand at least one question from each of you little shits.
Is this void fluffy with big yellow eyes like a kitty cat?
Normally, no. Most people don't have as much love for their pets as they proclaim to be. Their pets become hobby and extension and joy, and yeah, there's some benefits given there, but in the opportunity of wasting away physically in the grip of your most ardent and passionate love, be that drink, drug, physical indulgence with a partner or partners of choice, or spending eternity stroking the head of your lovely pet, most people choose one of the other three. However, if Maddie is an animal lover of such refined taste and focus, that very well may be what she is experiencing, being embraced and swaddled and spooned and loved by her pet.
And I'll just add a book in there and a cozy seat, and we're perfect.
Well, we know what their idea of forever and the most perfect moment might be. Neon, what might lead us wasting away in the middle of nothing, in the void of all that is in fact pleasurable for her? What might that look like?
Lita has been trying to find some kind of enlightenment since she found out that Wakanda was a thing that some vampires believed in.
Hey, give me my book back.
You went into the darkness, seeking the light.
I think she'd be trying to kind of attune herself to whatever higher consciousness was going on around her.
Ah, yes. Adapt to the vibe.
I see. The funny thing about small towns is that they are exactly representative of all of the souls who have existed there and presently exist there. They are wholly 100% as close to actual tribalism in practice and in vision as we can ever truly get back to in modern society. Each town is the product of the poisoned individuals who clamored for, who grasped, who gripped and clawed their way to power. Every small town is the victim of those who fought and fight to escape. Every small town is its own separate sweltering furnace based on the wants and the previous needs of those present. Bethany is no different. It is a regional anomaly. It is more Texas than any other place in Louisiana, say Shreveport, and it is more Louisiana than any and every place in East Texas. It is a melting pot of biases, clanism, and tribalism mixing and roiling, and its connections to each other and those who pass through is a palpable thing. For the kindred, Bethany is a watchtower. For the kindred, Bethany is a place where those who cannot survive in Shreveport settle. It's as close to the crown as they will ever be, and hundreds of thousands of leagues from it, all in one breath. A half an hour drive doesn't seem like all that much, but there's not much to see in and around the main roads through Bethany into Shreveport, yet it is definably its own entity. It is a feel in the air. It is a whispered sound off in the distance. It is the way that the locals and those who inhabit the area are able to discern which echo is worth paying attention to, which call out there in the dark is worth risking one's soul for. And everyone treats small towns as if there's something different, as if it is not in fact just a microcosm of the big city. Because at heart, that's all that it is. The city, and every city, is broken down into neighborhoods and municipal area and census designated places. small towns within a larger town. The interconnectivity of that small town stretched to the hoary edge of its self. As thin as a butterfly wing and as light as a butterfly's kiss in larger places. But after it's all said and done, small towns and large cities, villages, townships, boils down to those involved, those who reside there, and their idea of what is right, wrong, indifferent, worth the effort, not worth the shame. And as much as each person believes that they are an individual, they're wholly a product of their environment, either working counter purposes to it or bought in for its longevity. And this affects their each and every person's idea of what perfection might be, what the holy grail of heaven's reward might be. Seldom is that idea being locked in an office of mirrors, locked in a trailer at the edge of a carnival in the middle of the night. Seldom is being confronted with hundreds of different shattered and cracked versions and images of oneself. But it takes all types. It takes all kinds. And as India and Joji frantically attempt to not look into the mirrors, to not look into what forever might be, to find a way to escape without giving themselves over either piece by bloody piece or whole cloth inside those very mirrors, just past the range of touch and the impossibility of the endless everlasting night therein. Lita, you mentioned having glimpsed the knowledge of Golconda. For Lita, what does that actually mean? What does the idea of a perfected kindred, not a victim of the curse, but a beneficiary of it, what does that mean for her?
I don't know that she's worked that out yet. I think she's kind of decided the journey is the destination. That's about where she's at. And that trying to find some kind of enlightenment through her own life is kind of the way to get through, the next couple of days. The next day. It's sort of her motivating desire.
So very much the spiritual life as a highway mentality is what's possessing Lita presently. The idea of traveling for travel's sake, the sights along the way, the time invested, is the destination in and of itself. There's no set in, no goal line, no finish line for her to cross.
I think that's where she's at for the moment, but she's kind of looking to find it.
And how did she hear about the idea of Golconda? What was she told about what Golconda might actually be?
Well, she's an expert in the Book of Nod, and that talks about it a fair bit.
Yes, but which version of the Book of Nod? Which copy of a copy of a copy of notes and assumptions has she had the opportunity of reading? Was she
At least
gifted?
Beckett's
version passed through several hundred different hands and copied several hundred times. It is a piecemeal thing. The Book of Nod is, unfortunately, much like the King James, the New Christians, the several other reprintings of the Bible. There are several verses and passages and parables that differ in tone, language used, the Greek, the Italian, the Kosa, the Deutsch, the Mandarin, it is a parable in and of itself, finding which version, which copy, which is the most, in fact, accurate, which one is not expurgated, which one is not unabridged, which one. The reason for that is, unfortunately, much like apocryphal text throughout the entirety of civilization, everyone chooses to edit to win over others to their style of thought, their path of thinking. Finding an actual unedited version of the Book of Nod in the ancient Amharic is not impossible, because there is no such thing as impossible. But the funny thing is, it is as close to impossible as one can actually get without crossing over. So the Beckett's version that Lita has had the opportunity of getting copies of, handed down from time, the value more so in whom it came from, who originated the idea of it, makes it phenomenally important. There are churches and cults which are much the same thing said in different ways, or seen or viewed at different points along a singular timeline, that would kill for a version that is less edited, that alone not copied over, a version that was truer. So she's been gifted the opportunity of a great amount of value, and with her sire being so predominantly hands-off, seeking their own knowledge, finding their own perfection, finding their own way through the everlasting night, as she settles here in this floaty isolation of her mind, she realizes that that's what this is. It is, in fact, her mind. All of the many ephemeral thoughts and assumptions hanging just there in the distance. All of the conclusions, the hypotheses, the philosophies. Some more formed than others, but all just there, not completely resolute. If she were to find the most valuable portion of all of that history, all of that time, all of that knowledge, would it look like the Book of Nod, or would it take another shape, another form?
That could at least involve reading a little more about the ancient history of the vampires.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus composure as high as you possibly can?
Okay.
And as that roll is happening, Maddie, a nice quiet evening in, warm, several projects completed, no real demands of her time or of her. We already have the idea as to what her most perfect moment might be, swaddled in the presence of her pets, their purrs, and the subtle vibrations that emanate from the purr itself, rumbling deeply in their chest, a book enhance, entertain our mind, and tease our imagination. What does that book look like, Maddie?
It probably looks old and worn and well-loved, leather-bound, yellowed pages with the lovely library smell.
It's funny, but part of the biggest aspect of libraries, especially older libraries, is defeating dust. Defeating the residue of all of the people that breathe through them, inhaling and exhaling the dead skins that they leave behind, their moistness sticking to the edges and spines of books, the accumulation of hundreds of thousands of individuals passing through over the course of years. Defeating the dust, keeping the books useful, is part of the scent that most people don't recognize in libraries. They only notice it when it's not there. New libraries have a unsettling presence at the back of the mind. That absence of dust. That absence of skin and lives spent. It's a curious thought that a kindred would equate the scent of prey as heaven. Not the dander of a feline companion, not the fur of some canine companion, or even the slightly dry scent of a raptor or parakeet. No, the scent of a library. All of those people that have passed, leaving bits of themselves behind. The ink, the dry pages, the dust covers, even those that don't do their job, those cellophane wraps that go over the jackets for each of the books, only obfuscating the title of certain books with their accumulation of detritus and debris. Realizing the book that she's been reading for what feels like hours has not changed. The balance of the pages in the past, those that she's already read, and the balance of the pages ahead of her, still remaining the same. Is there anything that Maddie might consider, or would she simply take the solace of being in this most perfect moment?
She might notice that the pages thing is a bit odd. Normally when you read a book, the balance shifts.
It does. Things hanging in the balance, the future quickly or slowly rushing towards you as each page is turned, the tale being told, reaching its conclusion, the end of the line, the final denouement of the tale, the point where one has to either re-shelve the book or start a new one. Yet, as engrossing and entertaining as the book is, the balance doesn't move. There's just as much before as after.
Well, clearly something isn't right.
That being the case, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve and composure as high as you can? in the course of most persons' lives, when they have the opportunity of meeting the eyes in the mirror, it is a difficult thing, looking into your face and realizing all that is there. Partially because when you look into your face, when you look into the mirror, you're not seeing you as you are. You're seeing your version of you with all of the many denigrations that you've taken onto yourself, be it from family, friends, associates, school, work, all of those other voices parroting their considerations of you, now echoing from within. Because it's never really self-talk, self-negative talk when you're, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm so fat, or I need to shave my eyebrow, or this, that, and the other. All of those little faults that you yell at yourself, that voice in your head that sounds like you, is put there by your environment. It's put there by the people in and around your life that cross your path like stray cats. Yet it mimics and sounds very much like you. Because it's very difficult to not take that into ourselves and project it from within. Constantly bombarding ourselves. Because that voice, those voices, don't need to breathe. They don't need to pause. So they're able to perpetually be there. And they're always the loudest when you least expect it. At least that's how it is for mortals. For kindred, it is so very much worse because that voice, that negative self-talk, those intrusive thoughts, not only does it not need to breathe, it is able, if you allow it to slip from your grip, to step into the driver's seat of you. And is able to cause you to act on all of those less than positive things. It is able to have you act out your most selfish inclinations. Food, fuck, or fight. And is able to boil you down to your lowest common denominator and gas you up with all of that social and emotional ethanol to poison you with. That is part and participle of what Joji is actually dealing with. Because not being worthy of the world around you is one thing, but not being worth the effort in the person that you love more than the idea of anything that was and is you. All of your works of art, all of your everyday magic self boiled down to nothingness. And yet you have the opportunity. You have the opportunity of rising above. You have the opportunity of spending forever in her embrace, of being worthy. All you have to do is just look.
As much as the temptation is there, Joji is aware that thing is a trap, right?
That's a good question. Is he? Considering that he was standing right next to Maddie as they stopped being there. Is he?
Yeah.
He was glimpsing in the mirror and had to catch himself and still nearly entered into whatever realm that was, whatever magic that was, whatever just impossibility was, that coolness, that comfort. As a kindred, you're never comfortable when it gets cool. You're never comfortable when it gets cold. Yet something about it, while it chilled the flesh for a split second, it's like a watering hole in the heat of summer. That coolness dimming the fire raging across your skin and making the world absolutely perfect for a few moments.
And then the subsequent intense rage that followed it.
Was that rage or was that embarrassment? Embarrassment at understanding that Kaylin was right. She was better without you. She is better without you. She's out there in the night, finding true art someplace where there is liveliness, where the hunting is easy and the beauty abounds.
Nobody isn't a gaslighter. He's a welding torch, is what he is. It's very precise and effective.
One look.
No, fuck that shit. We know what happens. People get stuck in there. No, fuck that shit. You're not gonna convince me.
That being the case, would you be so kind as to, do you have dominate or presence?
I have neither in this respect.
Oh, that is a shame. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus composure -1?
That's a number. Let me double check really quickly what my hungy is. I believe I left here with a rather okay hungy. Because here we go, yep, 2 hunger. Since this is an attribute roll, would I have the ability to rouse for it?
Yes, let's whittle away that willpower, shall we?
Alright, let's give it a shot. Okay, we're up to hunger 3. So, 4, -1, 3, I'm at 5 dice. It'll be 2 hunger, as high as I can roll.
As high.
Jesus, you really don't want to go in there.
Right? Some things are just better left unseen.
And speaking of unseen, since the time you were able to be considered yourself, pardon of living on the ranch, even as beloved and, let's just be perfectly honest, coddled as India was, it was safety and wariness and the real lessons that the world is not a nice place. You are only safe because you are safe, meaning you must be aware of your surroundings. You must know gun safety and knife safety. You must know how to, rope a bull. You must know how to break a bronc. You must know how to, if push come to shove, to cook a meal for your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever is in your life. You must know these things. And so part of her education, the biggest part of her education, was learning to survive and learning what the cost of failing to do so. A lot of people consider that a cruelty or too much for kids, but because India and her brother were so, in fact, blessed, they actually had a rough and tumble childhood. They were able to scrape their knees, fall down hills, ride horses, rope bulls, cook, clean. It was idyllic. Some would say otherwise, especially when part of that early education was in fact gun safety, was in fact learning the purpose of that particular tool. And as it sits in her hand, and Joji having cautioned her not to look, and realizing that there are mirrors everywhere, a quick glimpse is she's sure is all it is going to take. Him being panicked, him being worked up, him being forceful. Let's just be perfectly honest. Joji being forceful is, well, reminds you of that song your dad would always play after church, as he didn't like any of the priests, he didn't like any of the deacons, he didn't like any of that, but he went for your mom. And so when you all got home, you already knew what was going to be played. It would be Kenny Rogers, the coward of the county. It would be Kenny Rogers, the gambler. It would be Johnny Cash. It would be rebel, almost psychedelic country and western, mixed with Delta blues And he'd get in his feelings, and he'd sit on the front porch, his glass of lemonade, and he'd whittle and growls because it was a burden for him. But in those moments, with music blaring, you all learn the verbal history of the family and the land, and it added to the education. But all the same, seeing Joji forceful in his warnings and the disappearances and the fact that you're locked in, what is it that India might in fact be up to?
Thinking better of the whole gun situation. She's going to keep it in her hand, but keep safety on, and eyes closed. Turn to the room and mule kick the door.
Well, now, that isn't interesting indeed. She's going to remain close, even though she can almost hear everyone considered him the cow, and she can almost feel what it was like those warm August evenings where the family would gather after supper and watch the sun disappear behind the horizon line. She can almost hear her brother's laughter at some stupid joke he and her father shared, and she'd be brought in as backup as your mom would cast a look or say something under her breath, and the teasing would just ratchet up family and laughter and warmth. All of that to say is she determined to close her eyes and kick and not take a moment, because she can hear them. Her father's voice, deep and strong, her brother's laughter riding along the skin like a verbal hug, and the warmth radiating out of her mother like she was the center of the universe, like she was the sun giving life. They're just there.
That's what keeps her eyes closed. Hearing her brother's laughter is what keeps her eyes. She remembered just as clearly the uniformed officers showing up at the front door, telling her parents that her brother was never coming back. So that contrasts that laughter for her and keeps her eyes closed.
Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus brawl? And while that roll is happening, Lita, you've always known that education, knowledge, comes with a cost. There is an indescribable surge. You're not sure whether it's rage, ecstasy, or some bastardized amalgamation of the two. She doesn't speak Aramaic. She can recognize it. She doesn't read Aramaic, but she can recognize it. She is not a expert in age, yet the authenticity of the book before her, the fact that her eyes are still giving her problems as if she actually still needs the reading glasses from her living years, is a mental problem. It is an annoyance. But even with all of the blurry, hazy, ephemeral aspects of the books around her, and the sound of her feet upon whatever this floor is, how warm this place is, it does not dampen this surge of actual emotion. Normally her emotions are dim, gray, gauzy and fuzzy, save for the need to feed, save for the need to consume the life residing in the blood of her victims. Which is the reason why she starves herself to not give that side of herself release. It's the reason why she takes the cold and lifeless to keep from experiencing that in its fullness. Because if she gives in, she knows what the outcome will be. She knows where and how all of those others who engage in taking it right from the vein operate. They're so possessed with the life in the blood that they lose sight of the gifts of what you all have. You're dead. Masquerading as anything else and getting caught up and having your emotions swirl and bounce off this, it's a distraction you don't need, you don't want, and yet here it is. You have before you an actual bound copy. You knew something was a little different about this particular book because that was in fact human flesh, not the pig or cow flesh that is normally used to cover most older apocryphal books that managed to survive. No, the original books were kept in the most valuable of things, human skin. The spine of the book being the flesh from the back, the pages oftentimes being, well, from various other members of that person's family. The secret sealed away and stamped and carved into the flesh. So as she opens the book, she's surprised enough to have her feelings skyrocket. It is literally like the 4th of July in her center, in her palace of herself. This whole of it all. She has found the truth. There's no place she would much rather be than right here. Even as she can't decipher it immediately, she can sound it out, she can work at it, as long as she has the time, and she has the rest of forever to decode the actual So what's going through her head? What is she doing?
I think she is pretty lost in the moment of trying to decipher any little bit she can.
Okay, and what's her intelligence plus academics?
But I'd have to double check. Might be a 5.
All right, survey says
5.
5. Indeed. The impossible and then some. As she begins reading pages of the Aramaic original printing. And she's able to conjugate, and she's able to translate some portion of it, impossibly so. The literal impossible is what she's doing. Is she's staring at these pages. She's lovingly running her all too feeling warm fingers across the pages, feeling the pores of the skin. And even preserved as it is, you could tell that this person was, well, fairly active. There's sun damage there along the edges. There's a certain tan, a deeper reddening of the skin here. She flips and flips and goes back and flips again. The Aramaic, which is impossible for her to translate, she's able to shift into Latin. And this is what she sees. This is what she manages to get from it. Manages to begin to work at. So having the truth of the universe sitting there before her, and her being able to relate it to at least Latin, is there a drive? Is there a notion? Or is the knowledge therein what is solely on her for an afterthought?
I think she's kind of weird that she's doing this well. Translating a language she doesn't really know.
You broke up a little bit there.
Oh, I think she's probably a little weirded out that she's having such luck translating a language she doesn't really know.
Excellent. And as that creeping dread begins to work at the edges of her mind, slowly possessing her, there's a right and a wrong way to everything. And right and wrong has nothing to do with the ethical or moral. Everyone's ethics and morality changes and shifts because ethics are honorably legal and morals is emotionally and spiritually in accordance with that. It's an ever-shifting balance, as one side of the ship is weighed down with bilge water and the other isn't. It tips and rocks. It wavers, but it manages to stay afloat, even with a little bit, or considerably more than a little bit of water getting inside. But there is a right, a proper, correct way of doing most things. There is a right and correct way for enjoying, embracing, and being part of most things. And while the bulk of that is in fact just as subjective as ethics and morality, the processes of success prove which one is right and which one isn't. Maddie isn't one of those academically focused, mindful warlocks. She is a practical, hands-on right and wrong warlock. She, in achieving what measure of success and freedoms she has utilized that as the guide for most of her existence. So as the darkness around her flickers in time to the candles that are just outside of her nice personal circle of comfort and warmth, as she hears Lita chanting and praying, being a Tremere, being a warlock, she recognizes the sound of Latin. Bene attendete est locus otro spiritum otro vitam. And she understands that it's Latin. Whether she speaks it or understands it fluently, she recognizes it. A lot of the warlocks in their personal codes use Latin as the base. It's usually Latin and a substitution cipher for several other individual languages, whether it's French or German, Mandarin, Cantonese, Yoruban, or some other such. Many of them use Latin as part of their substitution cipher for when jotting down their processes of creating rituals and spells and the like. The fact that she's hearing Lita, the fact that the darkness around her is flickering to the light of candles that are not present, the fact that these feline creatures are a little bit larger than they should be. There's no way that a tabby or an orange cat is as large and massive as a heavily breathing and snoring bear. Yet, as she looks to the creature to her right, and the other one curled across her lap, and the other resting against her back, she realizes that she is approximately the same size to them as a very malnourished mouse might be. And there's something about not being the biggest predator in the room that causes certain thoughts. What might those thoughts be, Maddie?
This is one hell of an alternate universe. When did I start dreaming again?
The dead don't dream, do they?
They don't.
And you're well and truly dead. It's part of the process of stepping into the first circle of mysteries, being accepted as more than a acolyte to this thing you are now part of. The breaking down of how the body would cease and the reason for having it take the course of 3 nights so that you could have your last meal, so that you could have your last rite, so that you could prepare yourself for what happened next. And what happens next is, yes, you, as you were, died. And with the you that was, so went your dreams, so went those moments of rest that came at the end of the day. Sleep is no longer a thing. Dreams are no longer a thing. And knowing that this is in fact not necessarily where you belong comes roaring up out of the darkness of your mind. And you're able to see, sense, feel the illusory nature of this perfect moment.
Well, cool. This was a nice little adventure, but now it's time to go back to being a normal person. Ish.
And there's Lita. The darkness opening like curtains, as if this was a stage production and you're there on the first row, just behind the orchestra. And there's Lita, floating there, no more than 30 feet from where you're equally adrift. The darkness around her seeming a little thicker, seeming a little denser. It is not any different, but the fact that she is kneeling there, her hands open as if she's in the middle of an Islamic prayer, as if there's a book there, as if there's some truth and she's able to divine it, and she's chanting in Latin as she looks into her hand.
So this is what Maddie is seeing.
Yes.
Excellent. I will chuck the book at her head. Wake up!
Oh, man.
Maddie, if someone stole something from you, how would you feel?
I mean, someone stole my life from me and I was pretty irritated about it, so you know.
As the perfect tale is gone and you send it flying into the darkness, it dissipating like smoke, that's what it feels like. Someone has stolen from you, take it from you. That's what this is. Theft. Without the preparation, without the planning, without the build-up, without the... This is what you're going to feel your first few nights, and this is what you're going to feel your first few months. It will come in waves, and the whole idea of there being only 7 steps to grief is a falsity. It's a cycle, and you're going to move through this cycle at varying paces, and you're going to go back through it again. And as you go through it, you'll be building up a callus to these feelings. That's what grieving is, and you're going to, of course, grieve for yourself. These things are natural, but they're part of the process. Trust the process and focus on. And those are the talks and the preparations. There was even a brochure, if you really think about it. If you remember correctly, there was an actual fucking brochure. So now you're dead. Who does that? Oh, that's right. The warlocks do that. Speaking of who does that, the outcome of thoughts and recriminations, the assumptions that the promise idea of forever is it really forever if you only have half the day? Is it really forever if there aren't any time to wistfully dream? Is it really forever when the merest touch of flame could end it? Is it really forever if you have to go through it alone? The impotent rage at that idea bounces around Joji's mind, sealing him from slipping into the void beyond the mirror. The understanding that forever night is too high of a price to pay. An unending darkness. No sunsets, no sunrises, no light. Part of what he does or did with his woodworking, his art, very much depended on the natural light. It very much depended on seeing what a piece would look like with the morning light coming through a eastern facing window, seeing what a room would look like as the world comes alive, understanding what grain and lacquer a porch would need, what carving just the right angle would do to the shifting growing light of day. All of that taken from him. For what? For love? The idea of it? The pain of it?
So, I have a little bit of a request.
Mm-hmm.
With the sheer dominant willpower that Joji has shown, like uncharacteristic sheer dominant willpower that he has shown in this particular encounter so far, and with the sundering of that draw into the mirror, and the understanding that the love he holds for his sire is not worth an eternity without everything else that he loves. Can I count that as one step towards freedom on the Bond track?
Yes, let's do that. Only 5 more to go.
Only 5 more to go. Let's go, baby.
Amazing.
I'm just kind of, having that realization and shredding himself away from that mirror. The edge of his emotions finally starting to dull with the violence and the reason cutting through it all. Hey, he's just gonna start trying to work on getting the fuck out of here.
Excellent.
He doesn't know how to get those people out of that mirror. He is not an occultist.
He is not. And as the sound of glass breaking more bombards his ears, he's able to meet his own gaze in the mirror. And it's not his sire standing there. It's not Kalen calling, beseeching, reaching out to him. It's him. It's India. Her gaze averted from everywhere around me. She can't see you nor the floor before her. She in fact has her back to where the door was and is driving her leg back against the glass, shattering the mirror and dislodging a portion of the door because it is unfortunately locked outside. And Joji is able to look into the mirror and see this room reflected 100 different ways, bouncing off surfaces left and right and catching what little light there is from the few appliances, and a mile, quarter mile into the mirror. And beneath all of that shining space is Maddie, is Lita, floating there as if they are in the midst of a free fall. Arms akimbo, hair floating up above them, as if they are diving through space and time. And while that impression of motion follows them as if there's some semblance of gravity affecting them, that's an impossibility. There's no way. But there they are in the mirror. And as you stare into the mirror and you hear the shattering of glass, is there anything that you might attempt or do?
So, is this reflected strictly in the one mirror or in all of the stable, non-destroyed mirrors?
All of them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not an occult guy. I don't necessarily know like what the fuck's going on with the mirror. But with India following my lead and destroying mirrors, the potential that if we break them all, they might not manage to get out kind of sets in. I'm just going to I'll throw my coat over one of the mirrors and just be like, hey, don't break this one. We can break the rest if we got to, but leave at least one, and we can try and figure out how to get them the fuck out of there.
There's no reason, India, as you're hearing this, there's no fucking way. And yet there is. These motherfuckers have at least a double deadbolt top and bottom. Because that kick, let's be perfectly honest, in her living years, India was no slouch. She was the other half of her brother. She knew his friends. She helped them, occasionally toss the pigskin around. She roped and wrangled. She is no slouch physically, and yet this cheap mass-produced RV door stands up to her, giving it her absolute all. It almost laughs at her. She breaks the mirror, the glass goes flying, the shards are everywhere, and she gives it another kick, and it still holds resolute. And then Joji is telling her, not this one.
Just kind of looking over her shoulder and seeing the situation with the double dead-bolted door, just completely resistant to her. Just, I might be able to bypass that in a not so destructive way. Maybe.
Well, you better figure it out, because I was dealing babies. So you got 10 seconds before I start back up again.
10 seconds is long enough, he says as the wonderful combination of rapid reflexes and rush job are, well, they make a 10-second job very swift.
Indeed. Now, what is it that he's attempting?
So, pulling forth the good old locksmith's gear, I'm gonna try and, pick this thing open. If it's dead bolted, I'm gonna try and bypass that. If there are actual locks and such, pick those open and just try to use the mechanisms rather than try to snap them off.
Excellent. That being the case, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve and larceny?
Alright. And in true fashion, if possible, I would like to rouse.
Alright, let's get those double rouse, baby. Roll the rouse afterwards. Oh, well, okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
Nah, that's good. Go ahead, roll the other one.
Alright. Dear God. That's ugly. I don't like the potential of what might happen, but I have to.
Yes.
Alright, see, that's a lot more manageable than what potentially could have happened.
Excellent. Now roll your second rouse, and let's see where the beast leaves you.
Oh, this is not fun. That's at Hunger 5 right there. Fuck. Oh, that was a very, very annoying door.
But is it though?
It was. The demands of the beast are quite simple. Feed me, fuck, or fight. The hierarchy of needs and wants conflating into one singular coalesced thing. Standing this close to India, Joji has never realized before just how good she smells. She smells divine. She has spent time around the living and animals, and she has a certain vivaciousness, and you're sure that if you ask, she'll at least look away so you can have your way with all of that lovely, warm vitae coursing through her. She might actually, maybe even give you more than you request. All it would take is, well, you guys are friends, and friends do help out each other, and sharing is caring after all. So very close, so very lovely, so very and while she's no Kaylin, her hair isn't straight enough. It's almost as long. There's still that similar caramelized chocolate tone to her skin. And while Kaylin is not quite as voluptuous, there's still a softness there to India. And you remember what Kaylin tasted like. Kaylin tasted like having tomorrow forever. Kaylin tasted like all of your dreams distilled down into the sweetest, clearest white lightning. Invigorating. The sort of thing that a sip will do you, and a drink is far too much. Yet you want buckets of it. Kaylin tasted like beauty. And you're sure, while India may not be Kaylin, there's a very good chance that she may taste very, very close. Now, India, the question is, do you believe that in the escaping lions and the brushing of others, that she may have inadvertently poked herself or scratched herself or caught a beating? What is her health levels at presently? Has she been marked or marred with anything that may have broken her flesh?
Nope. She is at full health, and remember, she avoided that fight, so there was no scratching.
But did she though?
And she never. Yes, she avoided that.
No. Maddie took the
She
brunt of
walked
that.
away.
Now, just because you're not bleeding doesn't mean you don't have blood on you.
True. But we're not going to belabor that point because it's very too good to be true. Because India is right there. The question is, has India ever, in her recent time, been close enough to frenzy where she knows she was a threat to everything around her?
That's a hard one. I don't know. Like, she's usually pretty in touch with her other self. So when she needs to, she'll go shift and go running. But right now, this has been a lot of chaos for her. So
Okay. So as she makes way for Joji to do his thing, and standing close enough to immediately take action if she can, does she keep her eyes on him and the mirrors around him, or is she attempting to keep her eyes closed and focus on the ground to keep from seeing whatever it was that drove him to violent action.
He said not to look in the mirror, and then no matter what the hell he's not looking in the mirror.
Okay.
So she could have let him pass her without opening her eyes.
Excellent. So eyes closed as Joji does his thing. She doesn't see how lusted after she is. She doesn't catch sight of the very hungry look across his face. So she's unable to prepare herself or stop him from whatever the other him might choose to do. That, however, doesn't stop Maddie and Lita. Your book, your reason for having forever, begins to warm to the touch. The sort of heat that would be troubling in a cell phone is even more troubling when coming from a book, from a grimoire of apocryphal knowledge. And it'd be more troubling if whoever that was that's chanting in Latin would stop. Something about their words are calming. Something about that monastic deep helps keep those niggling thoughts at bay. Helps keep your concern for the fact that your palms are growing red and warm.
Now, is this the same book that I just chucked at Lita's head?
Nope. She's still staring into the palms of her hand, chanting in Latin. The book you threw becoming nothing more than the shadow stuff about you. The creatures at your back and across your legs slowly dissipating into the same essence of darkness that is all about you and her, in this void of otherness that you all are in.
All right. Well, excellent then. I will get up and cross the distance to the girl. And you know what? It's an oldie and a goodie. There's a reason why parents do it. Just grab her by the ear and just start dragging her off.
And now is when we start discussing the tensile strength of human flesh.
Yes, especially when it hasn't been preserved or otherwise prepared for such a thing, for such a direct and actionable bit of wake the fuck up. It's not quite the slap across the cheek nor the flicking of the eyeballs, but it is very, very close. There's pain, and then there's annoying pain that doesn't cause actual lasting damage, but it is just enough to shake one out of whatever reverie they are in. And therein lies part of the problem. Lita isn't in a reverie. It's worse. Lita is in as close to heaven as you can be and asking for help. It is that uncomfortable space in realizing that getting what you want and getting what you deserve have far too much overlap. And as you are presented with a darkness around you, Lita, and the book dissipating into nothing but more darkness, when you feel yourself floating in the absence of everything. You and Maddie, floating in the absence of everything. Is there anything you all might attempt?
Well, there's a reason why they say in the Poltergeist movie, head towards the light, Caroline. That's what we're doing.
Go towards the light. Pray it's not a train.
Right? Dragging the poor girl behind me if need be.
As the door goes screaming open, slamming back because of the residual kinetic energy from India's efforts and Joji's actions, you all are presented with the opportunity of leaving this place. Joji, India, is there anything you all might attempt?
Certainly something I might attempt.
As to whether or not it's beneficial for the group as a whole, that's another matter.
You gonna give India a little nibble? Good for you. Take what you need, boy. You got this.
I mean, out of character, there is the hope and there is the prayer that India might just, bitch slap him like he's an unruly child. But in character, there is no such consideration. As is described, all he knows is that lady probably tastes really fucking good, and I am really fucking hungry. So just, very... As he's finishing up his work, and his eyes are distracted, continuously flicking back over to India as the thoughts pour through over and over, faster and faster, louder and louder. The moment he hears that click, and knows that he no longer has that obstacle of having a task to be done before, well, he's free to do whatever he sees fit, he'll go for the bite. That small sliver of self-control offered by occupied hands being now devoid in the moment.
As soon as she feels the air of outside, she moves toward the eyes to float and will knock down whatever's in her way.
Ah, yes, this is what it's like when two worlds collide.
That is a very, very good attempt. Unfortunately, the kiss may say otherwise. Joji, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus brawl against a DC of 1.
Ooh, see, you're lucky. You might actually, even with it being a DC of 1, you might actually make it out of that. Never mind.
Alright. So,
Contested roll.
it's no contested roll, unfortunately. It's effectively a sneak attack. Eyes closed, moving into it, unfortunately. What there is a contest of is the kiss itself. How far under the actual pleasure of the kiss does India become? would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll what's India's present hunger?
She's at a 1.
Okay, that gives her a DC of 3. Make it happen.
What am I rolling?
Resolve composure to not be swept away.
And now I can't get Power Man 5000 out of my head. Thanks, everybody.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoy.
Oh, who am I kidding?
Didn't you kind of do it to yourself, though?
Yeah, I know. I'm the one that brought it up. There's a potential if you willpower. Oh, no, wait, you did willpower that.
Fate lends a hand. What it lends a hand for is anyone's guess. Somewhere out there in the endless night of the kindred existence, fate is holding its gut and laughing and pointing. She has gathered her cousins, serendipity and kismet, and is elbowing and utterly enmeshed in what is happening inside this RV, what is happening inside the mirror, what is happening here now. Strong as an ox has often been what India has been called. She is tough as leather and twice as nice to hold, according to some of her former lovers. She has understood and given herself to receiving the kiss by giving it to all of her victims. Even when she just chooses to hunt animals, she counts on the pleasure of the kiss, making their last few moments something to behold, something to enjoy, something literally going out with a bang. She has never been caught as unawares, eyes closed, barreling forward, and the tissue paper strength of Joji wrapping around her and meshing her in his aftershave and his hair product and the scent of his well-used tools and happiness erupting like an explosion. All of her synapses firing at once. All of the idea of pleasure washing and wafting over her at once. Eyes already closed, she only has the vision of her internal sense of balance and justice and familial bonds and physical gratification erupting one after the other, melding and mixing and conflating into this idea of as close to heaven as you can be without ever dying. And unfortunately, the actual taste of Vitae, the melon iron lace copper tinged taste of Vitae, is not blood, but it is close enough and near enough to unfortunately trigger that devil beast side of Joji to leap into the driver's seat. Be so kind as to go ahead and roll 1/3 your humanity and your unspent willpower.
What's my DC?
You really don't want to know.
I really don't want to know. Okay, we round down for humanity, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the sheer chance that I somehow crit, I'll still roll it, but just know it's not a high pool. Yeah, so fucking close.
Wait, you spent all of your willpower?
I have.
Oh.
Since I'm pretty sure we don't reset it between episodes, I have.
There's losing yourself. And then there's burying yourself in the absence of everything you've ever known. Joji is comfortably in the latter of that. What he is hunger made manifest. What he feels is the satiation of all of his life and death's pain. It is the penultimate kiss from mom when scraping a knee. It is the ultimate ice cream to salve the cracks of a broken heart. It is the end of all pain and the welcoming of all pleasure. He ceases to be. India, what is your present hunger level?
It was 1. It's still 1 right now.
It is unfortunately not. Joji cannot break free of the hold of the beast until he gets at least 1, and he just lost control at 1. So yeah, he's going to drink until he is at minimum 1 hunger, which is 4 hunger from India. At which point he would get another opportunity to resist falling even further into that endless hole. Adding proper focus to this moment. Even as Joji covered one of the mirrors and you all are attempting to head towards the light, there's only so far in the dark you can go near that light. Swimming forward to the surface of it, floating through all of that nebulous absence of everything, finding what small flickering reserves of light there are, you find yourself pressed against an adamantine glass. You're able to see the other side, and on that other side, standing there across the room in front of the door, is Joji and India wrapped in an embrace, looking very much as if they are in fact old lovers, having met after everything from the stars to the planet itself aligned for them to reach this moment. It looks like the cover of some Harlequin romance. It looks like the sort of thing that fan sites and fan fiction would pine over for years. In that moment is the physical manifestation of the hunger feeding and being fed by itself, like an Ouroboros. And parts of you, Lita and Maddie, are jealous for the pleasure you know that they are actually in the midst of. A endless circle and cycle of pleasure, magnifying itself for its own purposes over and over, each reverberation causing another trill of pleasure to escape. And there's the two stand there in the doorway, and you are able to see them from the actual mirror that's the center of this maze of horrors. It is 45 after. That's return at 56 after. Welcome back, everybody. How we doing?
Oh, we're doing fine, I mean,
Right?
technically, I'm now doing markedly better than I was 20 minutes ago.
Considerably.
Though I have the suspicion that situation is going to change drastically.
Right.
Probably exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what damage can Maddie really do? She didn't bring any weapons with her.
Maddie is a weapon.
It's not so much what you can do, it's what you probably will do that will be the most determining factor here. The kiss has its power and its ability. There's also the very real addict side of it. When you know that you are very, very near rock bottom, you can continue your free fall and meet the ground in all due time, or you can try to pull up and pull out of it. You can try to escape the grip of the demon and the monkey on your back. That's what would be happening for Joji right when they get to roughly one hunger's level worth of hunger, actively bombarding and soaking their mind in all of those lovely, delicious vitae juices, all of India's go juice, as it were. The only problem with that is that the tables will decidedly turn. Because if he manages to break free and not put her at, attempt to put her at -5, negative hunger, she will be doused in the coldest ice bath one can imagine, being at from the apex of pleasure to the antithesis of that immediately. And that combined with her beast, I don't like Joji's odds of coming out of this unaccosted on every level, because it's hard to do. Like, the weight of his situation, yes, he's satiated, yes, all of that filthy, dirty pleasure that he's managed to obtain. And then the conscious mind settles in. Whom he obtained it from. How he obtained it. Where they are. All of that coming crashing down immediately after. Not right after, but immediately after, as the reverberating afterglow of it is hitting him, so too is the realization of where he is, what he's done, who he's done it to. Yeah. Good times. India.
Yeah, that's a Rut-Row Raggy situation.
India, Neon, are we back?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to say that Discord is doing its Discord thing to Neon's ability to interact right now. So we're going to keep right on gliding along. Lifetimes occurring in the span of minutes, of moments. The most potent aspect of the kiss is because it is metered out, it is doled out over a longer period of time. Victims typically are less bombarded with the fullness of it, save in moments of pure bestial release, when the beast slips into the driver's seat and holds on for dear life. Then those moments pass by a lot quicker, a lot faster. Those seconds and minutes and quarter hours of slowly feeding to not destroy the victim, to not wash away all they are in a wall and river of pleasure, go right out the window. So as Joji is nearing the end of it all too quickly, because he is satiated, because he has gone from 5 levels of hunger to 1 in a truncated amount of time. Instead of it taking the usual 15 to 30 minutes, it in fact taking literally 9.67 seconds. 9 minutes and 0.67 seconds is not a world record, but it is a record for him. He enjoys feeding. He enjoys what it provides. He does it safely, with all due agency and care for his victims, realizing how much he's divested from India as she's all but swooned in his arms, as her eyelids flutter and the realization of who's holding her slowly washes over her, as he looks into that pleasure-stricken face. And glances from eye to lip to the soft, almost human breathing. Luckily, she is in fact dead. Luckily, she in fact had not tempted the beast to rouse to give herself a semblance of living. Because he's sure that being this close to her, watching as even in death those pleasurable soft sighs are escaping, he is absolutely positive that, well, he wants to not drive down that path. There's enough self-recrimination there to last him several lifetimes. Glancing past her, he sees Maddie and Lita on the other side of the uncovered mirror behind her. Something with his voice chuckling at the back of his head. Something urging him, take another sip. Before she comes to. Before she realizes. Take another sip.
Yeah. Knowing the very real consequences that would come of doing that, and the very real consequences of being here when she gets out of her stupor, there's an open door. Joji sees them kind of on their exit from that weird-ass space. He knows that at the very least one of them is a lot more capable of handling India and helping her get what she needs afterwards than he is. And still needing to deal with the fact that the Carnies just tried to suck them into the Shadow Realm. Joji's gonna try and take off like a bat out of hell. Which is weirdly coincidental, given that those two are pretty much coming out of their own little personal hells.
Okay.
If possible, yeah, I'd like to get out of the camper before shit turns into round 2, you know?
So, dropping India unceremoniously, he turns on his heels. What is Joji's occult?
Not too high. He's incredibly intelligent, though.
So there's a chance, is what you're saying.
Eventually.
Let's give that and go ahead at an intelligence plus occult roll. How many old wives' tales has Joji been privy to? And as that roll is happening, India...
Yep.
If you were in the midst of scratching every itch and your parents kicked open the door in the midst of you scratching every itch, how would you feel?
halfway embarrassed and halfway pissed.
So looking up at the mirrored ceiling as all of that ice cold ice bath hits you, causing those feelings to erupt in regards to everything. Like all of the pleasure centers of India's brain were firing on 10 cylinders at once, and they came to a grinding halt as if that happened to her. Her beast literally taking the door off the hinges. What would she do? Would she attempt to keep her eyes closed? Would she attempt to gather herself? Or what? What would she do?
I would say if the beast is that close to the surface, instinct would kick in, and the thing that's running would get chased.
Okay. That being the case, India, Joji, would you both be so kind as to go ahead and roll your, because it's a foot race, there's no attempt at stealth. Would you both be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and athletics? The first to either get 5 successes or have 3 successes more than the next person, it will be our victor. And while that roll is happening, Maddie, having watched this, you are behind an adamantine barrier as clear as the best, most well-made crystal you have ever seen. You are able to watch as India hits the ground and Joji steps out of the doorway, and like one of the endlessly rubber bouncing ball, India is up and out the door. What is it that you are attempting to do?
Okay. She is just gonna straight up put a boot through this mirror.
Yes. Let your anger flow through you. Use your hate.
You know, and her potence. It's fine.
It is. And it is not. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits and occult? Or intelligence and occult will work as well. Brute force or guile and understanding the situation. Making illogical leaps to find the clearest, easiest bit of logic.
Intelligence it is.
Excuse me. There are some things that cannot be undone. They can be forgotten. It's akin to realizing, and this is the annoying part of just simple, straightforward logic. You never actually stop hiccuping. There's just more space between the pauses of them. Once the baby hiccups its first hiccup, for the remainder of that baby's existence throughout full childhood, adulthood, and all that happens, there is never a stop to it, just a longer pause between those hiccups. In a similar light, in a similar fucking hell, I hate logic. There are some doors that are once closed can never be opened. Whether the building is torn down around them or someone just takes the door off the hinges, that door can never again be opened. It can no longer transform from a door to a jar. Places like that, or more specifically, places like this, have multiple ways in, but only ever have one way out. And sadly, just like the best jail cells, they are only able to be unlocked from the outside. And as that realization happens, as Maddie literally kicks the ever-living hell out of the boundaries and bars of her cell, she realizes that, like those doors, like the best and most competent jail cells, it can only be unlocked from outside. And she just watches two of her potential jailers, or at least her gang who has the keys to the jail cell, take off.
Oh, I can't say that I got very far.
Amazing.
Although,
We're still missing one success. Remember, first to 5 were beat by 3.
Ooh, okay. So, with my attempted occult roll, do I manage to, before I slip out the door, glean anything from their situation?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. As self-preservation takes over and you begin to take that step, the reality of the situation, the potential reality of the situation, is absolutely horrible. Joji has, unlike most, traveled significantly outside of Bethany. He's been exposed to various places and various things, various wives' tales. Everyone knows about Bloody Mary. Everyone knows about the Candyman. Everyone knows or has heard tales of such beings existing, looking into a mirror and unlocking what lay behind it, speaking a chant, a phrase, a word, or worse yet, in the case of some of those such creatures trapped by a mirror, providing them blood, awakening what's within. So cutting your finger or drawing a blade across the palm and pressing it against the mirror, unlocking what lay within. Things like punching mirrors, shooting mirrors, kicking mirrors in places of power, and unlocking what lay within. They're only sweetened, the deal is only sweetened when, for instance, sacrificing others to what lay within.
Okay. That makes this very awkward. Well, let's get India's next roll, and I might have to change my plans during this run, as the kind of understanding of their situation sinks in, and leaving them in that camper alone really might not be too hot of an idea.
That's perfectly fine. Sacrifice them, save yourself. Joji and children escape in lifeboats first.
Depending on the outcome of this next roll, I might have an opportunity to try and get back there and pull them out. Or at least attempt pulling them out. I don't know what the fuck this contraption is, but by God, I'll try. If pulling them out doesn't work, I'll spray blood on the bitch.
Maybe India can help you with that.
Uh-huh. I'm sure if I take too long trying to pull them out, she will certainly help.
I mean, there's a few drops here and there on the floor, I'm sure.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Uh-oh, this is not a good sign.
It is not 6 versus 7.
Alright, just don't... If you roll a 4, I'm gonna be very fucking sad. This may very well be the last of the bouts of us trying to run away from each other, or run at each other, as it were in her case. That sucks. Okay. Can I get some final words before I get taken down like a fucking Saharan animal?
Yes, let's paint the scene for us, if we will. So Joji had torn between self-preservation and never getting his just desserts, or at least what he feels is his just desserts. He knows what his ethical center tells him should happen next, and he is doing everything he can to escape that from becoming a reality, and other thoughts are percolating as he rounds a corner and escapes through between two semis and bounds back around another RV camper with an old lady leaning on her elbows in the window, taking in the night sounds. As he passes, he sees that she doesn't have any eyes. But that's not the weirdest part. That's not the part that bothers him. What bothers him is that niggling thought at the back of his head that keeps nagging him. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. And as that thought is still there, he jukes to his absolute heart's delight. He avoids India's leap, or at least he believes he does. He manages to get out of the center line of her head-on pounce, but forgets, unlike lions, tigers, wolves, and bears even, India's arms don't work like the four legs of such animals. She has range of motion. She has the ability to not only move forward, but to outstretch her arms sideways. So as her head is taken off center line, with him sure that she is going to miss, and a plan settling into place, her arms latch around his waist, bringing him down with her.
Just firstly a nice surprise, and then as he hits the ground with a thump and he knows what's coming next, just, you've got to pull them out. Oh God, you've got to pull them out.
Can't really hear you.
You broke up a little bit.
Did you roll to try to resist us hearing that, or is it too far gone?
Yes, resolve plus composure roll, you need a DC of 3. Don't lose control. You know what happens when you lose control.
It's okay. At least if she does fail, Joji will finally get out of this county. He'll probably be in several counties, but at least he's out of this one.
You mean you're not old enough to be dust?
Oh shit.
Oh goody.
Ah. Ah. Ah.
Do we will hunt?
think those are all hunger die. I don't think willpower will save either of us here.
No,
Yeah, they're all literally all hungry.
no, it will not save either of you all. And that being the case, unfortunately, India, would you be so kind as to roll 1/3 of your humanity and your unspent willpower?
Now we just need yakety sax playing in the background.
It was just a nice friendly trade between friends, I borrowed it for a little bit, and I'm giving it back. It's the way of the world.
So I guess while I'm stuck, I'm going to have some fun with it and bite my finger and write out Bloody Mary so that people can read it. Just because now it's funny to me.
I see. I've accepted my situation, and I have made do with it. It is what it is.
I mean, at this point, I get out, I may actually turn into Bloody Mary because someone might be dying because I'm hungry.
Uh-oh.
I mean, not like right now. She's good right now, but give her a few days. I suppose that would, be assuming she doesn't eat the vampire with her first.
The party is the greatest enemy of the party.
Always and forever. And unfortunately for India, that good Southern Christian upbringing, as she sinks fangs, she holds on to her conscience. She doesn't lose herself to her beast or the pleasure of the kiss. She's already had the pleasure of the kiss this evening. And yet, as she sinks fangs and she tastes all of that lovely melony, iron, copper tinged sweetness of Joji, the slight hint of vitae tinged salt on his skin, speaking of which, Joji, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus composure? Your hunger is currently 1, which means your DC is 3. The moment that she sinks fangs and she begins supping upon the vitae, Joji's exhalation of pleasure Joji's sheer animalistic release, combined with her good Southern Christian upbringing and what she heard him say as she sunk fangs, she begins hearing the priest, the pastor, this is my body. This is my blood. Take it so that the sins of your life may be washed away in mine. And she begins hearing several different versions of communion as she is supping and slurping and beginning to drink him down. That, combined with the complete antithesis of anything remotely holy and the guttural release of pleasure escaping Joji as she sups, has her stuck there in that moment. She has a choice. She has a decision to make. Does she stop feeding upon Joji in the midst of all of these people watching them two make out? Or does she continue drinking?
And when she gets to about 2, she's going to try to stop.
So she's going to continue drinking.
Okay, where was she at?
She was at 5. At this point, the moment that she begins drinking, she's moving into 4. Hunger. Does she continue drinking?
No, she's going to try to stop herself.
I'm glad at least one of us is responsible.
Joji,
You mean the one that's trapped in the mirror?
Joji, the only thing worse than being a victim to your beast is being a victim to your pleasure. You'd like to think that the sounds that you heard were coming from someone else. Luckily for you, you did not in fact risk the beast to blush. Luckily, you didn't activate your semblance of actual living humanity. Otherwise, you are positive of what the results would be for you in this moment. Not once, but twice in the span of less than an hour, you reached the mountaintop. You hit the apex. You were the acme and the zenith of every ideology of pleasure you have ever known. And while you like to think that that bestial growl and was stereotypically masculine, there's a sinking suspicion that it may not have been, as the ice cold reality of looking up into India's face hits you.
Wait a sec. Did you just canonize Joji being a
Bottom?
a bottom?
It's fine, we all knew it.
The things I've been shown, the horrors I've been told. Nothing will ever bring me back from the trauma I've earned in VTM.
The question is, as you're looking up into India's face, and your arms are wrapped around her, and her arms are holding you in an embrace strong enough that you feel that you are absolutely perfectly safe, knowing that you are not, but feeling in this moment as the come down, as the after of the kiss, and all of that guilt combines with the strength of her arms. And you remember what her face looks like, twisted in pleasure.
Just kind of delirious in the moment. He'll go, I mean, they can wait a few more moments. I mean, it doesn't. We don't have to go now. I mean, they were safe back in there. No, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. We should get moving.
Yeah, she's gonna try to get free of.
Try to get free of him. This man is a wet paper bag. I'm sure you can free yourself of him.
Physically? Yeah. Emotionally? Oh, so very not. You two have shared something that most kindred experiment with in their first few days as a pack, in their first few years as a pack. And while each of you had a connection to each other that was pleasurable, was filled with nostalgia, was filled with shared moments of the past, and an understanding for each other's loss due to India's brother, and an appreciation for the area, for the land, for the people. Now, you two know what each other looks like in the penultimate moment of pleasure. You two know that you have shared and supped in the light and satiation of each other's pleasure. And you both know that for the other person, you all were the catalyst by your own agency in disregard for theirs.
Oh no. We're gonna have to unpack that shit later. At first I was thinking, oh yeah, no, now we're, it's like a really fucked up version of the childhood friend route. No, it's a double struggle snuggle.
Yes, indeed. And worse yet, your other members of your coterie are back there in that hall of mirrors.
Yeah.
And now there's probably some more doodles.
Just kind of as she frees herself from it, she's like, yeah, no, we really should make it back there as quick as possible. After you?
Of all the things to do, India sitting on the dirt, having rolled off of him, and just kind of smiles at him, but it's not like a oh how cute smile. It's a bit feral, and her teeth are very, very pink. Right.
I suppose I'll go first then. See you there. As he skadoodles. Just kind of offhandedly in the back of his head, like, wait a second, did that blind old lady track me? Warring with the self-gaslighting of whether or not her head had actually followed him as he zipped by.
And why was she smiling as he entered her, what should have been her view, but she didn't have any actual ways to, yet there was definitely a smile there. And it wasn't there as he rounded the corner. It entered her face as he was passing. And how did she maybe it was just the breeze that he left behind. Maybe it was India's slight growl as she chased him. But India hadn't rounded the corner. Making your way back is easier than getting away, as it were. The carnival is still in full bloom. You all did create a small scene, shoving people out of the way and what have you. But it was, in fact, a small scene. And it's not that important right in this moment, because it could have easily been a game of tag between friends that resulted in, well, no, you don't want to think about what would have happened if either of you had actually tempted the beast and were attempting to seem human. It would have been, or at least you would have had at least plausible deniability. There'd be proof that you all weren't, no, yes, no. And you find yourself back just outside the door. The door that was damaged and bent and finally picked and opened. And inside is all of that lovely, warm, wane light. The question is, do you all have the bravery necessary to go once more, to go boldly forth into all of those images of yourself, knowing what you've all been through just in these few moments?
Well, it's either we face it or we leave them to their certain doom.
It's funny you should say that, because as you're standing outside of the door, images of Kaylin and you several years ago, specifically shortly after your actual embrace, and you wonder why she was involved with a meat packing facility. And as you all carefully packed the hands, divested of fingers into boxes of hot ice to ship back to the meat packing facility, the offal, the lungs, the heart, and all of that being divested into another bucket to be sent to another facility. A troubling thought that was only troubling because you would have much rather spent more time just you and her going to the shows and the exhibits and the openings that she had exposed you to, and this was distracting from that. Why are we doing this? Well, it's only a crime if there's a body. And if you left them inside the mirror, there wouldn't be any bodies.
True.
Maybe if you push India inside, it'll be a nice trifecta. No muss, no fuss.
God damn it, I've listened to you too much tonight. Through the, I imagine, intense shame he would feel at the results of his most recent actions, I can imagine Joji wanting to try and make up for it, at least in some small part, by yoinking these people out.
And therein lies the dilemma. It's not just saving them or making amends. In the movies, when the former good turned bad, evil person makes that sacrifice and reclaims their goodness, they never have to deal with the fallout of that. They always die. There's none of the effort of actually making good on that potential promise of them becoming once more walking in the light. They make a great grandiose gesture and then they die, and they don't have to do the work. They don't have to do the effort. Neither do any of their allies, acquaintances, family members, or friends. They're remembered because of that one final act. And that's very much what Joji is contemplating. Because if he fails, if he and India enter into that caravan, into that RV, and they fail, they all will be on the other side. One final act. Except for this time, instead of him dissipating, turning into a ghost, or simply shuffling off the mortal coil, he'll be trapped with them forever.
Hey, India, do you wanna stay outside and keep guard while I do this? In case I actually can't pull them out and I get sucked in. Or
So,
someone comes back.
having joined the Bloody Mary on the mirror, just for her own personal amusement, it now says, "Welcome to Otta City, population this bitch."
As he just looks inside the caravan. What the fuck?
India will indeed stay outside and stand guard, so that should the absolute worst happen, she can still try to go get help.
Alright, cool. Wish me luck. And he'll step inside and try and recover his lost allies.
Yes, summon your bravery. Dig deep. Because that's exactly what it requires. Because there's not so much moving to that one mirror where he can see Maddie on the other side and Lita on the other side. It is walking through the other images of himself. He still has the hickey from India feeding on him. The small, bright stains of blood trickling down his neck from where his vitae was taken. The bruising of his own lips as he stole from India. There's the shame of having to meet your own gaze magnified in nearly every other surface reflecting back at him. The 6 paces from the door to the mirror is akin to running a gauntlet in a pair of weighted weights, and having to pull behind him a 16-wheeler that's slowing him down, causing all the blows to land with far more accuracy than they were intended. Would you be so kind? As to roll your resolve and your total willpower as high as you possibly can.
Alright.
And while that roll is happening, Maddie, watching Joji come back in is a mixed bag of realities. While you've adjusted and you've already mourned the fact that you will in fact die here in this space after maybe divesting Lita of all that they are so that you can survive a little bit longer, the truth of the matter is accepting one's fate is never an easy thing. There's a certain hope that refuses to allow yourself to believe that this is truly the end, even as you're preparing for it, even as you're mourning yourself while it's happening. Seeing Joji enter in, his gaze furtively flicking from mirror to mirror, and him somehow in this moment of shame, in this moment of strength, in this moment being mostly immune to the effects. You see several of the mirrors nearest him begin to ripple slightly. You see all of the cracked and discarded pieces from the door that they kicked free, and the other broken mirrors laying on the floor around him as they crunch under his footfall. But seeing your greatest gremlin become your potential greatest angel creates an opportunity of consideration. For Maddie, what is that?
Well, first, she is going to draw a frowny face with fangs at him. She is disappointed. He should have carried himself better. He knows better.
Just a quick look to the mirror, seeing the display of displeasure and looking away.
And then she will wait patiently. Because what's she gonna do?
Well, says the dark spot in the back of your head. You can always pull him in while he's pulling you out and do the old switcheroo.
You actually can. That is not a thought.
That is the thing. Yeah.
That is not a thought that has escaped you.
Oh, no.
Sacrifices are called sacrifices for a reason. There's a understanding of equivalent exchange. What he's attempting, or what it appears as if he's attempting, is theft from the great mysterious beyond in which you are held. It'd be far easier with an exchange. It'd be far easier with paying the cost with another. And disappointed though Maddie is, the question is, would she try?
I mean, for science, maybe, but no. They have a job to do. It requires all of them, probably.
Potentially.
She's just going to stand there with her arms crossed, tapping her foot at him.
And while he does the unthinkable, while he does the unimaginable, he has somehow managed to well up the bravery necessary to stare himself in the face as he gives himself over to that natural absorption and vacuum. Planting himself, his hand touches the glass between you two, it rippling into nothingness as his hand slides through, locking onto your wrist and your hand, and he begins to pull you from the great beyond.
Great, I will grab Lita's ear and drag her with us.
In the doing, India. They're safe as an idea. There's actually safe. And there's a theater of safety. Where you are is neither of those things. You are exposed. You can hear the murmurs of people from the actual carnival and circus out there in the night. And they watched you accost a man drunk on whatever adrenaline that they were under, high on whatever substances they've inhaled, and instead of responding how most would, watching anything remotely like that happen, you know for a fact some of them were cheering you on. The old lady that you guys passed twice, watching as you all ran one way, then walked back the next, cackling to herself as if it was the funniest thing she has ever seen, which is an impossibility considering that she doesn't have any eyes. You are not safe. You had not been safe since you stepped onto the back of that bike. Since you began making your way through the crowd.
He calls back over her shoulder towards Joji. I don't mean to rush y'all, but y'all might want to hurry the fuck up.
I'm going as fast as I can.
And therein lies the problem. You actually are. The moment you are making such incrementally quick work in dragging Maddie forward, and then it shifts from pulling someone up and out of a swimming pool to attempting to lift a baby elephant by its trunk, covered in baby oil and someone's used car oil, WD-40. It becomes increasingly hard and difficult to continue making for a process the very moment she reaches back and touches Lita. Maddie, you know Joji's not the strongest of person, but this is absolutely ridiculous. He's literally had you moving. Your hand is out up to the elbow, and then it's almost as if he gassed out, as if he reached the wall. It'd probably go faster if you were out there and just pulled him in.
I mean, it probably would be. I will do my best to adjust my grasp so that it's, not like hand to hand, but like wrist to wrist. And just like tap impatiently.
Still pulling Lita along?
Yes.
What is Joji's stamina?
3.
He is gassing out. He's not making any progress.
Who? India? I need your help!
Come on, you still have some blood left. You can rouse for stamina. It's fine, right?
I don't know if that's the mirror actually saying things for helpful advice or trying to get me to do stupid shit.
Why can't it be both?
She rolls her eyes, but in the sake of getting the shit done and over with, she heads back in and keeps her eyes on Joji's back and does not look in mirrors.
Nice. Excuse me. And then here comes the part that absolutely positively chills even Mephistopheles' heart. Holding on to Lita, stuck partially in and out, while your arm is roughly 1/5 of who and what you are. reducing the emotional damage, because that's what's happening. Maddie, what is the worst moment of her actual living existence that she would much rather not revisit?
Let's see.
You don't have to share if you don't want to explore it, but that's what Maddie is experiencing right now.
I mean, she probably has a few of them. You know, dying being one of them.
Even with the prep and the brochure? Did you read the brochure?
Right. Yes, I definitely read the handbook for the recently deceased. They gave me the wrong pamphlet.
But that's what's washing over her. Stuck between there and here. Literally in the middle and separated by what feels like nothing more than a quarter of an inch, a half an inch, an eighth of an inch of space. The mirror that you are stuck within, the space where you are and where your hand and elbow down is reaching into, causes all of those moments to ripple back to her. Unlike most memories where they're just playing out in your mind, you may be able to incidentally hear something that someone said, or you may be able to remember that ugly red and beige striped shirt that they were wearing, or those annoying, why do you have those, so many of those same pair of shoes, or what have you. It is not something happening out there in the darkness of your mind. It is something that is happening autonomically to you right now. Those same endorphins and chemicals flooding the senses, the same fear, that same fuck this sucks, all of that is actually actively happening, stuck as you are between there and here.
Impatient tapping intensifies.
He just sees this without the added word, and he's just like, I'm fucking so, I'm literally doing it.
Do you, when you tap, Maddie, do you relinquish your grip on Lita?
Nope.
No progress is being made whatsoever. And you were making progress up until you grabbed her.
Only do one at a time type thing?
Right. Let's see. So, does it seem like Lita is still in her little reverie, or has woken up, or...
She is still in her reverie. And
right.
here's the thing that strikes you, Joji. The moment that you make that suggestion, the moment that thought crosses your mind, you realize that it wasn't necessarily a strength of character. It wasn't intestinal fortitude that kept you from falling in. You were unfortunately falling in at or about the same time that Maddie was.
Oh.
Alright, so...
Yeah, this is a kind of one-man thing.
Right. So... Before she lets go of Lita, she's going to slide her hand back behind her neck and basically shove her face first into the mirror.
Getting easy access, I see, as she's just Oh no, I'm a small child running through the mall and didn't realize that is a glass wall.
I mean, pain usually wakes people up. It's a thing.
That is actually one of my earliest memories, is being confuzzled by a glass door in the mall. And as I'm sliding down it cartoon style, just hearing my mother breaking down laughing in the distance.
It'd be funny now. Save Maddie's stronger than Lita. And absence of sound, you literally just see Lita's face smack against the inside of the mirror. None of the arms that go up to try to stop us from our face hitting something that naturally occurs. Literally a clunk without any sound, without any expression of pain, and her face is there against the glass.
What? Do you want me to get her? Okay, I can get her first.
Ooh. Do you let go of Maddie?
I mean, does Maddie let go of me? That's the thing, because he can't really hear what the fuck she's saying. So if
Right.
Maddie doesn't let go, he's not gonna let go.
See, Maddie has a plan, because if Lita is now right up against the window or the glass, it's going to be easier to reach in and grab her, versus her being like an arm length back. Brains.
Yeah, geometry.
Right? And then she will let Lita drop and let herself be pulled out.
As he's just like, well, what do you want to happen here? You want me to let go of you? You want me to grab her? And she lets go of Lita. So, poof.
Yeah, this is effectively what happened.
Basically.
India's strength and your pulling and the lack of a rider causes what felt like forever into a matter of micro nanoseconds.
Let's see. Via the force of his own efforts, just flies back a solid couple inches before catching himself.
Unfortunately, that comes down to India. And she was behind you helping you.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He would have accounted for the fact that there's going to be a reverse of force. It's just like birth in a foal. Grab too hard and they come popping out and you end up on your ass. So she's braced herself.
You hear that, Maddie? You are a foal being birthed.
Woohoo!
That's not that unfair of a metaphor, considering you have to reach back for your afterbirth.
Oh.
Yoink! It'll be easier this time, maybe.
When Maddie goes to reach for Lita, is Lita there?
Lita is there.
Okay.
The problem being, as enmeshed in her fantasies, as enmeshed in the caress of the dark, when you all pull her through, would each of you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your stamina plus athletics?
Oh, you're evil. Thankfully, I'm not bad at this.
Not bad, not good.
Fuck!
Plus fortitude.
No, you don't need it. Unless, of course, you really would like to stand resolute in the storm that's coming. You shall not pass!
Gandalf,
I mean,
cracking that scepter.
that does seem kind of like something she would do, having been the bodyguard.
Alright, make it happen.
Yeah,
Basically, make a quick Because I know you said India was at hunger 4. She was at hunger 4 before she attacked Joji. So shouldn't she be at hunger 3?
Not that I clarified that. Both of you guys are at hunger 3. Just so that you're aware.
Oh, okay, well.
Alright, 2, 2, 6. Joji, you've never been a brave man. Not a coward, but never been a brave man. And what that means is when danger erupts, instead of your first decision, your first action, your first autonomic response is rushing towards it. That's the level of bravery that we're speaking of. You're not a coward. You don't, danger happens and you take off running for the hills. Your responses have been equitable and fair to the level of danger and the risk of survival. Except for in this case. You're not sure what possesses you. But as Lita comes slurping out of the mirror, because that's what it sounds like, her unconscious form, all loosey-goosey, no muscle, just going limp with everything, as she pops out like that last noodle, that last angel hair in the bowl, filled with just the perfect amount of sauce to slurp. As her foot, the last portion of her, escapes the mirror, you feel it more than see it and move so that you're almost straddling her. Those who've watched your behavior earlier would think that, oh no, not a fucking again. But the moment her foot breaks free and you're moving forward to straddle her, the mirrors around you erupt. Each of them seemingly wired with far more TNT than that was necessary, sending shards of glass and broken silver pieces everywhere. You moving forward managed to keep Lita from taking the brunt of what would have raked across her, would have completely and totally eviscerated her dead flesh. Maddie, India, hearing the first crack, move to shield each other and Lita from what's happening behind you all. Because not just the mirrors in front of you, but every single solitary, unbroken, cracked mirror in this place explodes outward into your space. Being ambulatory and dead gives you a certain level of immediate protection. You're able to tense up. You're able to cover your sensitive areas to keep it from flying into your eyes or otherwise causing you to be impaired. Unfortunately for those who are such as Lita, who are unconscious and at the mercy of every force, that is not the case. And somehow you've all entered a gestalt moment, each of you considering those of you unable to shield themselves. And as you're raked and buffeted by sharp small pieces and shards of this and bits of that, the reality of what that was escapes you. What does not escape you is that your clothes, your exposed skin, are riddled with small scrapes, bruises, cuts, and such.
I mean, just what I needed. More cuts and scrapes on top of being ravaged by a lion.
You don't have to roll, Maddie. You know what that was. In your heart of hearts, you know what that was. There are mentions of beings and things and reliquaries holding certain individuals and items and forces back from this world. You are very sure that that was in fact a jailbreak.
Oh, wait, like, we weren't the only things that got out of their situation?
Bingo.
Oh no, oh fuck. I mean, we wanted a reason for the police to get called down here.
Yeah, but everywhere has, power shortages, especially here in the parish in Panola County. Everywhere has power shortages, so all of the power going out, nothing to worry about. The backups will be up shortly. There will be something happening afterwards. You can hear people in frustration. Oh man! Oh my God! And screams from this Ferris wheel from people stopped at the top of it. The lights on the carousel going down. The many tents plugged into the central power supply for the circus and carnival grounds losing their floodlights, losing their power. All of the lights just switching off. All of the dim wane light inside of this switching off. Normally people have gotten accustomed and acclimated to, even when the power is out, your cell phone works because it's on a separate system. It has its own internal power. But there's not even one light from one screen. As you all sit in the dark, crunchy glass from the mirrors, Maddie having her thoughts as to what this may have been or what this may have helped happen. Not far away, in fact, all too fucking close, coming from the door that you all entered in, is a little old voice cackling, just fucking cackling. I knew it. I knew you guys would be the end. I'm ready. Take me now. It's over. It's fucking over.
I'm so confused.
Here to enlighten us.
As she slowly stops cackling, and even though there isn't any source of light, and the air is filled with just the absence of movement and motion, the room sounds you all grew accustomed to in this small few moments gone. Only the sound of her footfall over all of the broken glass, the crunch under boot as she climbs forward into the trailer with purpose and with the clarity of sight, as if she can in fact see. The darkness not hindering her in the least. Shackleton didn't believe me. We shouldn't have come here. But if we avoided it, there's a chance you all would have come after us. And that's the reason why I pulled what strings I could. It's the reason why most of my visions, they're just code readings. But you, I saw you. How I saw you. I know what you'd do. And Mirrory was done serving Shackleton, just like me. So, you did it. You made it happen. You crazy fools.
Just out of character real quick, what was that name she gave us?
Mirrory or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's very on point. And also, given the name that this guy is effectively being told to us is effectively a slaver, and his name is Shackleton, Nobody, you're really fucking subtle today.
Oh, good. Alright.
Let me guess. This character's name is Loony Lady.
No, not quite. Not quite.
Alright. Cool. I mean, Maddie is not particularly hungry, but she is a little miffed. So she might be trying to have a snack on this lady.
She smiles and keeps walking forward. It wouldn't be so... It probably would be eerier if you all could see her.
Oh, wait a motherfucking Miro second.
But she is in fact carrying a blade. And as she's walking closer, she is old enough by several generations that she understands how these things work. She shouldn't, considering she very much is alive, but she understands how these things work. And you're not able to see it, but as she moves forward, the blade in her left hand resting against her right forearm at the crook of her elbow begins traveling down its length, opening itself, the skin just sliding apart, the scent of her blood beginning to fill the space.
Oh god, this is why I don't hang out in carnivals. Guys, I get the strong impression we need to get out of here.
Grab unconscious Girly here, and Maddie is going to do what she can to drag the old woman out, because yeah, some blood, okay. Sacrificing herself or someone killing her in there at this point, not okay. No. See the image dragging an old lady out by the back of her hair.
Okay, if that works. As just OOC, I'm staring at the Damon page, just like, why? Why?
Feeling yourself around makes it a little easier. The lack of sight is normally a hindrance to the most minutest of action. But determination and just guesswork based on how many shuffling, crunchy steps you heard her take, and knowing how far it took for you all to travel in when you first got here, getting out is not difficult. The fact that the night is as black as it is the absence of every idea of what the sky should look like. Normally there are a million stars overhead twinkling and looking down, watching the world. That is not the case. Even without the stars, the lights from the carnival should have come back up by now. The backup should be on. You can hear the generators chugging along out there in the darkness. You can hear people freaking out and trying to find their way. No, just stay here. Just stay. The lights will come back up soon. Just. A collective murmuring cry of panic is riffling through the crowds of people, being in strange places, inside some of the tents, inside some of the booths, inside of it is elemental how afraid of the dark the living are. Even the animals because you can hear out there the tigers and the lions and the elephants, and it's a mess. They are afraid of the dark, especially a pitch black dark where you cannot even see enough to ignore the sight of your own nose. And as you all stand in the cooler night air with pitch blackness all about you, I'd like to thank you all for playing the entire first season of The Dark of Bethany. This has been our season 1 finale. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.